to the Genesis Collective yet again. I'm excited to be here. My name is Matt Larson, one of the co-founders of the Genesis Collective and also lead pastor of Anthem Church up in Thousand Oaks. Today I want to share with you a little bit about generosity, how to build a generous culture in your church, and why that is a critical part of planting a new church. So we planted Anthem 10 years ago, and I did a leadership residency with Dave and John Ferguson at Community Christian Church in Naperville, Illinois. And one of the things that we gleaned from our time there, which was really essential, like honestly, I don't know that I knew how important generosity was as a part of a multiplying context until I spent time with these guys. But here's what they did. They did this thing called Celebration Generosity. It was like just basically one day a year where they wanted to take in the entire offering and give it away into like 4 buckets. They would use that kind of language, or 4 initiatives, and they would pour out this incredible amount of money into things other than taking it for themselves. And that was an idea. And by the way, we stole that idea straight up, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But the idea of being a generous church, that started to roll around in our hearts a little bit. Like, all right, what does it look like for us to not just be the destination for other people's generosity, but to actually be an avenue or a conduit through which God's resources, these kingdom resources that are being activated, can be sent out into the world. That feels to me much more compelling than simply being a destination for everybody's money. And so it started to form an idea that generosity actually needed to be one of our core beliefs as a church. Like, we really needed to sink our teeth into that and understand not just how to make people more generous so that we reap the benefit, we can meet budget, we can hire staff, we can do the things that we want to do. In fact, those things became secondary to what does it look like for us to create a culture of generosity. And if we're going to do that, it means that our church entity, like the actual who we are as a church, we need to express generosity. So we started toying with what that meant. From day one, we didn't call our financial oversight team. It wasn't a budget team. It wasn't a finance team. It was a generosity team. And I know that's like semantics or something simple, but basically the commission that we gave to that team was, you need to find ways for us to increase generosity as a church. Where can we give? What can we pour into? Where are the different areas where we can trim our internal budget so that we can give away more money? And keep in mind, we're still fundraising, so we're bringing in outside resources in addition to the giving of the local church body, but we wanted to be sending as much of that out as possible. So that was a big part of it, just trying to create this. All right, first we want to be able to give 10% away. Whatever comes in, we want to tithe off the top. Just the same thing that we would be asking of people from their own budgets. We wanted to live that out. In addition to that, we put in this concept that we had learned from Community Christian that we call Celebrate Generosity, and we do it on our anniversary every year. We would call the church to the biggest giving that they would give all year, the dream of what can you set aside, what can you stop spending so that you could give instead. And we focus that giving on 3 initiatives: our global initiatives, our local initiatives, our reproducing church initiatives. So those were our 3 categories. And in that, we didn't just want the money. Like, that was part of it. We loved giving that money away. We loved seeing all of those resources get poured into very exciting things that Jesus was doing around the world, in new church plants and around our community. That was really fun for us. But part of that was trying to, and we'll talk to the church about this pretty openly, develop the muscle of generosity. We want to cultivate a people that are giving time and energy and money into the work of God, what he's doing, not only in our church. Again, this isn't just so we can increase our budget, but so that we can see God's people doing more to fund God's people. When you look through the New Testament, you see it over and over and over. Everywhere Paul is going, he's either drawing in resources for projects that he's working on, or taking in resources for the Jerusalem Fund to be able to go and minister to others that are in need. And it's a major part of the New Testament, is stirring up believers so that we can bless other believers, stirring up believers so that we can plant more churches, stirring up believers so that they live a generous gospel life, like Tabitha, just making clothes for widows and making that a part of her story. So I'm here on this podcast because I actually want to encourage every single church plant. Like, what is the generosity story of your church? Not how can people be generous by giving money to you, but what does it look like for you to grow people, disciple people into a life of generosity? Now, I'm of the opinion that a generous culture is a multiplying culture. We all dream about planting churches that plant churches. We all dream about making disciples that make disciples. But honestly, if we're not going through this life with our hands open, saying, Lord, whatever you've entrusted to me, I want to put to work and return to you tenfold. Like we want to walk through this life as stewards, as faithful managers, and obey what Jesus has put on us by drawing increased generosity and being able to turn that around and give in even greater measure back into the kingdom of God. And so for us as church planters, again, it's so hard. I get it. Like we're in survival mode. It is hard to think generosity when we're just trying to like make ends meet. But I fully believe that if even in the desperate hour, even when it's light for us and we're living on minimal income, to have attitudes and hearts of generosity of how can we give, how can we support, how can we bless other church plants, how can we fund activities around the world. Those are things that I think God blesses and then uses that to further increase our stewardship. What we are then responsible for grows. Our budget has grown every year and our generosity percentage has grown every year. And in that, I believe, and this isn't a health and wealth gospel because we're not receiving any of the benefit from this, but I believe God has grown our stewardship as we've shown ourselves faithful with the generosity that he's entrusted to us, and we've continued to increase what we're able to give out. And I want to challenge you. You have an opportunity to activate your people for kingdom generosity, and that's something that's critical in these new churches to build as a DNA component. So with that, I just want to say thanks for listening. I hope it's been helpful. Have a great day.